Good morning. I hope everybody's having a great day. That was an excellent presentation from Hawaiian Telecom. Please, let's give a round of applause for how they really brought the community together in Hawaii. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to be here and host this panel talking about the growth of the connected home and specifically focusing in on the smart home. And I think I might have a few slides. Thank you. So let's start out here and just set the stage for our conversation today. We're going to share just a few pieces of Parks Associates research. I hope you're familiar with the data that we have, but if not, I'm going to show you a few slides and then do quick introductions with our esteemed panelists and go into a great conversation. So first point is that everybody now has the speeds they need in a lot of ways at home. We're showing in our research 22% of households having 1 gigabit of speed or higher, and that we're seeing connected devices double in the home environment. And now 45% of consumers with internet, households with internet have a smart home device. And in case you're not sure exactly what we're talking about when we say smart home devices, these are the devices that Parks Associates is tracking in the smart home category and outside of connected entertainment. Notably, smart speakers, connected televisions are not on this picture. So this is what we're talking about for the smart home. And we strongly believe that these connected devices in the home will have attached services to them and create an enormous opportunity for connectivity providers to add the next generation of revenues through value-added services. You can see here from this list, and again, this is coming off of our consumer survey work of 8,000 internet households that we do every quarter in the United States. The box in the yellow is really where we're very focused in with some of our research, understanding security, smart Wi-Fi, smart home, different controls, and this is where we see the future for internet providers. In addition, these value-added services really speak to the experience that consumers have at home. And we know that the more bundled services that consumers take with their internet services, and really across any service category that we're tracking, you see higher NPS scores. Fiber is sitting in a very pretty position, and you can see here with that yellow arrow, those NPS scores going up as well. Finally, we talk about the whole home experience at Parks Associates, and that is where our roots of our research are, understanding the play with security, controls, connected health, and how that marries into the entertainment world. And so when we ask consumers about what they are interested in on their connected television, what are the things that they would be willing to pay for as they think about the TV in a different way, the top thing on the list is seeing the video from their doorbells, their cameras, and their security system on the television. This is about the whole home. It's about the experience, and you all are in the great position to help deliver these experiences with speed and reliability, and that's really what we're going to be talking about today with these awesome speakers on stage. So these are the topics, and we're going to start off with brief introductions and then go into some Q&A. So thank you, gentlemen, for being here. We'll go ahead and see if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself and your role.
Yeah, Robert Conger, I lead strategy at Adtran. And Adtran, we serve hundreds of service providers here in the U.S. with fiber networking solutions that span from the optical core to the customer prem, whether that's a residential user or enterprise class user.
Jeff Manning, there we go. VP of Network Strategy for Shentel Glo Fiber. We're a network operator across 8 states in the eastern U.S. We started our build out of expansion of fiber to the home in 2019 under Glo Fiber. We've got 350,000 plus homes built, and just looking forward to the conversation here.
Great, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Jeff. Hi, everyone, Jim Rosema. I work for Gateway Fiber. We've been at it about 6 years, have operations, customers in about 4 states, and excited for the conversation.
Okay, great. So let's start off just talking about why fiber is this great solution as a foundation for the smart home and especially for the future of the connected home. What are some of the applications that we're seeing in use and why fiber might be the best choice for consumers. And Jeff, I'd like to start with you on this one.
Well, like your slides, I mean, just seeing the number of devices in the home and what customers are doing, all the types of devices that are being added. I think fiber sets the foundation, for that. You mentioned we have all the speed we need at the home at this point, so I think having that foundation there for, everything the customers are doing today, but then, we've got lots of things out in front of us too with some of the new applications that are going to drive more demand for bandwidth that, we're really going to rely on the symmetrical speeds that fiber can provide.
So Jim, tell me a little bit about what applications you're seeing, particularly as we think about remote work and consumers being more in their home environment, perhaps remote schooling. There's a lot of different applications that we see that would rely on this very fast speed, but also the connectivity inside the home.
No, that's a good one. From my perspective, I mean, from the install, I lead technical customer support and then our field operations team. And it's really about keeping the customers happy. And we go in there, we see so many different applications, so many different things. But the technicians are there to make sure everything's up and running and continue that process just to ensure the customer's happy, minimize that future phone call to tech support that something's not working, and really keep that customer.
And so when you see all of these devices in the home, so the average household we're showing has 17 devices. Do you know how many connected devices you have in your home? Raise your hand if you do. Do you have a managed network at home? And you know? So I have 55 connected devices in my home with 3 children. And so tell us what can happen when you have these different applications going all at once, particularly if you have somebody who's gaming or using advanced applications like AR or VR. Jim,
take that?
Oh,
Okay.
Sorry, that was back to you, Jim.
I mean, it uses bandwidth. It slows down. There's issues, and our technical customer service folks spend a lot of time on the phone, troubleshooting, ensuring they understand what's going on, what the demands of the home are, so they have the right service plan to support what they're using it for. And we really end up seeing this vast spectrum of customers where we have the super experienced customers that have their own equipment. They're doing exactly what they want. And then we have the other end of that spectrum where it's customers that don't want to touch anything. I bought this new doorbell, make it work for me. And we field them all.
And so, Robert, tell me from your perspective, when we think about future-proofing and the digital infrastructure for consumers at home, why do you think fiber is best and should be that choice?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the applications you're seeing a lot of growth in, obviously, they tend to be latency sensitive, more interactive, and so, fiber just rules out. Like, you immediately have all the capacity you need. You have the latency characteristics. So a lot of the guesswork about fiber's a little more, there are tricky things with bent fibers and other things, and we have the tools to administer that, but it takes a lot of the guessing about, is it a network issue or an in-home issue? And so having the software tools that can see both, it quickly zeroes in on, usually it ends up being more of an in-home environment if it's fiber. And so I think it's more about just having that high capacity baseline capabilities that you get with fiber that you just don't get with a lot of other technologies. There's a lot more times that it's going to be the network side issue if it wasn't fiber.
I think another just another great point is just the resiliency of fiber, right? The reliability. So many of the apps now or the applications in use have to be always on, right? So you notice any kind of issues in the network. So I think it becomes a very important piece of the fiber network.
So reliability being of utmost importance, especially for specific applications. But we know that Wi-Fi network in the home is really what keeps everything on and going, as well as that ability to make sure the coverage is there in the home. So maybe, Robert, we can go back to you here. And what has changed over, let's say, the past 5 years since the pandemic? We've witnessed fiber really growing up and consumers, perhaps choosing fiber over cable as far as connectivity. I'd love for you to share what's changed and where do you expect things to go, looking ahead?
Yeah, you mentioned the pandemic, and that immediately changed to where people are doing, whether it's Teams meetings or Zoom meetings, much more applications with upstream bandwidth demands, more continuous. Like you said, if there's any issue with the network, you would see it. So a lot of upstream constrained access technologies, whether it's DSL or certain generations of DOCSIS, quickly became a challenge. Certainly anything fixed wireless, things like that are more upstream constrained. So that way, fiber just became like the obvious choice. If you can get fiber, you'll have a definitive preference for fiber, especially if your work and your kids' education and other things depend on it. Then you're a lot more selective, I guess, about. And so that's kind of where, all the investment shifted to fiber, because if I'm going to invest for the future, this was kind of a case study that, hey, things can change and change quickly, and applications can emerge. We weren't talking about a lot of Teams meetings 7-8 years ago. Now everybody's doing it every day. And so, that's the more obvious thing. But I just think you look at the explosion of devices and where everybody's going with the Wi-Fi technology and everything else, it just became, to me, the more obvious answer is if you're going to build the network and you're going to invest a lot of money in it, you're going to tend to bias heavily towards fiber wherever possible.
Okay, great. And when we think about whole home convergence, I gave the example of the connected television really becoming so much more than just a TV these days. And we see that, consumers having 8 or 9 streaming services, moving towards streaming, having multiple devices in the home streaming at the same time, along with those gamers. So much more activity going on. So tell us a little bit about, Jeff, if you would, tell us about some of the innovations that we're seeing in unifying smart home ecosystems in the home from the fiber perspective.
So I think one of the big things is when you think about just the Wi-Fi in the home, and it has to be easy for users to add devices and to troubleshoot and get support on adding those devices. So I think when you think about managed Wi-Fi, getting users to adopt the application that comes with that so they can self-support. They can easily add devices and integrate those devices and see what devices are on the network. You mentioned that, we've got 22, 30 devices per home, and most studies I read say that most everyone underestimates that significantly. The true number is probably much higher than that. I'm probably in the 50 to 70 range as well. And if you'd asked me before I counted, I'd have probably said 20 devices. So just having visibility of what's in the network, what's consuming bandwidth in the network. Oftentimes our calls to tech support are a device that's on the network causing problems that the customer may not even realize was causing those issues. So having that visibility at their fingertips is important.
Well, and the industry is moving towards more services coming versus just the speeds, right? We've got plenty of speed in a lot of different ways. And so, Jim, tell us what you think about how these services are going to roll out over time. If speed is there and we can continue delivering the highest speeds possible, what's coming next for the consumer at home?
For us, it really starts with the activation, that first touch with the customer. You go in there, you understand what they have. It's not just, here's your internet, we're down route, we got it hooked up. And really, it's the experience of going through it, setting up the devices, explaining how things work. If there's something new, our technicians are empowered to look it up, call in, go to every corner of the home as much as the homeowner is willing to do that to make sure everything is really just perfect. And ideally, in our world, that's the last time we talk to that customer, because they're happy, they have the service they need, and then they're working on their own devices where there's that handoff. But in reality, we'll get those calls, and the people inside have that same responsibility or empowerment to figure it out, look up devices, try to help these customers, to help that smart home be there for them.
Can you share about how you all have developed new tools to be able to remotely support customers in the home?
I don't know if we've developed new tools. We utilize Plume as our system, Wi-Fi, managed Wi-Fi, and that gives us that insight into how many devices are there, what's working, connectivity. It gives us that tool. And still, we run into issues. Only about 80% of our customers will take that service. Others have their own. And that presents its own challenges when somebody calls in that wants help and we have no visibility into what's going on in the home. So it's another challenge we work through with them.
That's a great point. The support through that managed Wi-Fi device for our tech support centers to have that visibility, and then also thinking about what you can do proactively. What information can you gather from that so you can, reach out to a customer who maybe isn't experiencing a problem they're aware of, but in advance of that, you can kind of get in front of it a bit.
So go ahead. Yeah.
I would just say one thing we've also indexed to is a truck roll. I mean, if it's not our system, we can't see in it, we're willing to take that step to go roll the truck, spend some time with the customer to continue fixing those problems to keep them happy.
So that's perfect. I was just about to ask about technicians in the home and the truck rolls. So, you are happy to roll a truck to help the customer out if needed?
I don't know if we're happy to roll a truck, but we're absolutely willing to roll a truck, and that's been a mindset change for those technical support folks too, to say, okay, I am able to offer this service. I'm not just drawing this line. It's not ours. We're done. Yeah. But we also have to take the time. I mean, as we roll those trucks, we're understanding what's going on, measuring it to try to find some trends of different things we can do to educate our customers, to ideally stop additional truck rolls in the future, but continue to help and support our customers, not.
Yeah, one of the truck roll, while it's not, you don't always want to send a truck, but when you send it, make the best use of that truck roll. So making sure you're doing everything during that truck roll to not just ensure the home's supporting the devices there today, but what devices might be added. So looking at the corners of the house to make sure you have coverage where they might be adding a new device, later that evening when they go to Lowe's and buy a smart washing machine in their laundry room. That maybe didn't need Wi-Fi coverage before, but will. And there's so many devices that are being added now. I'll use the example, my 82-year-old father called me and said, my Wi-Fi network's not working. Can you come help me out? And I'm like, well, it's working. I know I was just there yesterday, it's working. And he said, no, my bird feeder isn't connecting. Well, it's like 90 feet from the house, right? So, things like that are, users are adding devices to the smart home that's outside the walls of the smart home. So being prepared to support those types of things and how you communicate that to customer and educate customers on what Wi-Fi is. And then opens up the opportunity for what additional services can you offer. Certainly outdoor service to expand that coverage outside the home is a great option, for those types of environments.
Yeah, I was just going to add to Jeff and Jim's comments on kind of that demarcation point. It was always, in the DSL and cable days, you kind of had that one point of demarcation that you could test to at the modem, and maybe even in the early days of fiber to the prim, the ONT, as long as you could test to that, it was kind of like, okay, I'm good. Now it's kind of like your demarcation point is effectively the 50, 60, 70 devices you're connecting to, whether those are in the home or outside the home. So I think most operators, most service providers we speak to, is everybody kind of understands a managed Wi-Fi plan has to be part of that, because you're going to get those calls whether you like it or not. And so you need the visibility and you need the data. To Jeff's point, there is a lot we can do with data. That's absolutely the kind of next evolution phase we're going through, is how to get proactive with that data. Rather than, hey, I've got a screen I can look at when the customer calls and complains, how can I identify that before they call and complain? And one other thing to Jeff's point, that is also in our kind of smart home ecosystem strategy, or the connectivity strategy, I should say, is that connectivity is moving more and more further away from the house. Whether it's the doorbell cameras, I've got devices for my sprinkler system that are outside the house. You put outdoor cameras for security, bird feeders, you name it. Like, you're moving further and further away, and then sometimes in bigger yards, bigger houses, you're quite a bit away from, there's no longer just this one device to support everything, not just from a capacity, but from a coverage. So outdoor APs, all these things are now have to be part of the toolkit, of how you deploy services going forward.
Well, and really good points there. Truly, consumer expectations have changed, right? I mean, ever since Uber, I think the world has changed. People expect things, and they expect them now, and they expect them to work and be reliable, and why can't you make it work? So being able to meet the needs of today's customer is of critical importance, in that reliability in the home with the Wi-Fi, and all of those extra devices that are coming online just becomes so important. It's interesting because in the olden days, perhaps, we weren't looking for engagement. We didn't want the customers calling us all the time with problems, and we still don't want them calling us with problems, but we're looking for the engagement throughout the home with the usage of the devices, the usage of the speeds, the increase, the mesh networks, the add this and add that to make it all work. So tell us a little bit, and Jim, I'm going to start with you on this one, about just these white glove services in handling the customer and why that becomes of such importance for your business.
And I think that's exactly what I touched on. Is, I mean, the goal is to go and meet this customer, set them up. It's really setting up their foundation for their smart home. We give them the Wi-Fi to be able to do that, the internet to do that, and that's got to be strong. That's got to be everywhere they need it. It's got to be right, and then they can build on that to make their home smart. And that's the goal. It's not just Gateway's goal. I mean, I think that's kind of the trend in the industry is go in there, set it up, take your time. We make sure there's time. There's time to educate. There's time to do these things, and it's not just speeding through to the next customer each time.
And a follow-up question, do you see a future where you will be upselling devices along with services beyond, let's say, the Wi-Fi networks?
It's absolutely something we've talked about. I think we're still trying to figure out what that should look like. We talked before this about how much do you want to get into customers' devices. You're not going to be able to solve every device. There's always going to be issues, so you open yourself up to unsolvable problems when you get into that realm. So just trying to figure out where that line is what we're working on.
Yep. Jeff, you have any comments you want to make on the balance of providing this superior support along with adding devices onto the network and managing that?
Yeah, I'll touch on that. I think the customer experience is what's going to keep the customer there, right? So we have the advantage from a technology standpoint of, we've talked about the speeds, we have those. So getting the customer to move over to fiber, we can use speed as the trigger to get them moved, right? Hey, we have symmetrical speeds, 5 gigs, whatever it is they need, that can get them moved over. But to really keep them, it's going to come down to reliability. What's the service that they're getting from you? That's in the home. It's what kind of, when there is an issue, how do you resolve that issue? How quickly you resolve it? The reliability on these networks now with education, work from home, it's just such a part of people's lives that downtime is so critical. So how you respond to that downtime is just super important. And I think what creates that customer value and the customer experience that'll keep them there. And I think another one is the technician in the home is oftentimes the only face that the customer sees of your company. So they have a lot of trust in the technician. So when you spend time in the home to take that time, educate the customer, talk to them about their devices, and ensure their home is established as that foundation for their smart home, I think it just creates a great environment for that customer to trust you as a provider, that you're there to support them.
Absolutely. We've seen we have quite a few long tenured technicians, and over the years, they see the same devices with the same issues, and they have their own little network to figure out how to document what's going on, how do you fix this, how do you address that, and that's been helpful for these external devices we've got to figure out how to hook up and support.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say our job on the solutions provider side of that is to provide the service providers with the tools, like you said. There's a lot of this domain knowledge or tribal knowledge that they adapt over time, but a lot of times you can see that in the data sets. If you get access to the data, you can identify those and then use agents and other things to go proactively identify that, give a root cause analysis and a problem resolution. And the more that we can push that problem resolution directly to the end user to say, hey, it appears you have a poor AP placement, how about do X, Y, Z is the next step? We've launched some different tools that are kind of end user focused. They kind of make that lighter touch, because there's a lot of the challenge obviously is extending your service offering into security and IoT and everything else is like, it's too complex. It gets me down this path I really don't want to get involved in. But is the solutions provider, we can make all of that engagement simple and more proactive. I think that some of that hesitation to expand, and that'll start to go away.
That's a great point, that it starts with the technician, you figure it out there, but being able to document it and roll it up so you prevent that truck roll, and as the technical service has that knowledge to continue to build on it.
Well, and what y'all are talking about really is layers of value that are coming from the service provider, and that's really what we want to see happening. There's so much that can be done with software that enables future services and provides layers of value, and those are layers of revenue to come. I want to spend the last few minutes talking about connected health and remote healthcare. You know, one of the things we're seeing is private equity take over hospitals, which is then leading to hospitals shutting down in rural areas. And that's creating a real problem for consumers' ability to get healthcare when they need it most. And so I would like to hear, Robert, from you, if you can share a little bit more about your view on connected health in the home and remote healthcare and why fiber plays such an important role thinking about that.
Yeah, no, I totally get the use case you described. I mean, I grew up in a small rural area here in Tennessee. I have parents who are now at that age that they need more health care. Their doctors are retiring. They're not, so they're facing that exact issue. There's just not adequate coverage in the area. We're not that far away from like Nashville and stuff, but it's just, you don't have to go very far away from the bigger cities in facing that challenge. But as far as the technology goes, I mean, a lot of it just builds on what we're talking about in the residential, higher speeds, lower latency, highly reliable services, and as we introduce not only 10 gig PON, becomes the standard, and now, 50 gigs already being, we've started commercial early stage deployments of that. So the capacity is there. I mean, from a technology standpoint, so it's the rest of the ecosystem as far as the tools to make it intuitive and easy to use, but those are obviously coming along with it. So I think, from an innovation on the capacity standpoint, we're kind of pretty much there to meet whatever those needs are from a connectivity perspective.
Any other comments on healthcare, remote health from you?
No, I just think it's just another layer of the importance of the networks we're providing and the service you provide. But the same types of things you're doing to support healthcare, support work from home, support education from home, all those underlying things that are part of that foundation. It just layers on top of that. So.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I just heard we've got to get the foundation right, and then all that stuff can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's close this out and talk a little bit about how you empower your internal teams to embrace innovation and all of the things that you all are working on to move the market forward. And so we'll go down, if you could keep your responses brief so we stay on time, and we'll start with you.
I mean, from our perspective, it's really sending a lot of the engineers to engage directly with the customers, understand the end users. We pilot our own managed Wi-Fi with hundreds of users within our company, all having to get feedback. So they're all feeling it themselves, they're using it, trying to figure out how to make the products better. So I think it's just, getting more of that experience down to all the levels throughout the company.
Yep. For us, I think it's, continuous training of the technical teams, right? Making sure they understand how to educate the customer. And to do that, they have to understand, the products themselves, understand the technology. So a lot of focus on Wi-Fi training, right? Just the importance of that in the home and how the whole underlying network is built on that foundation. So I think that's a key part of development of the technicians.
Yeah, I don't think I have much to add. I mean, it's continuous improvement. I mean, it's understanding where those struggles are with the customer during the process, after the activation, and continue to improve those and figuring out what tools we need to address them and eliminate them so another one can pop up eventually that we get to solve.
And another final question. Do you think that the consumer is ready for this next generation of value-added services? We see in our research that consumers are, and that they are building their own smart home. We also see examples in the industry like Calix and Arlo enabling home security through connectivity service providers. So do you think consumers are ready? And let's go down the line here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there'll probably be a generational gap here. I mean, it's obviously the younger users that grew up in that environment will easier to adopt, at least to do it themselves model with IoT and other things. But as far as at least basically like things like security and parental controls that not only work in the home but follow their kids around, that's easy to integrate, and it's going to be kind of, so there's certain applications, yes, widely adoptable. There's others that maybe, I guess it depends,
Yeah, I agree. I think you can have groups of customers that are, some are, more than ready, some will be kind of brought along, but I think the key is it just has to be easy, right? It has to be easy for customers to adopt it.
Would you like the final word?
I can add a final word.
Absolutely.
Absolutely agree with you guys. And I think the challenge is there to meet all the customers we have. We have those early adopters and the ones that don't want to touch anything, and just understanding how we're there for all the customers.
Okay. Great. So Robert, Jeff, and Jim, thank you so much for a great conversation. If you would, give a round of applause for our panelists. And thank you all so much for joining us today. Appreciate it.
If I don't pick up the phone, chances are I'm getting stoned. And only thing that I got on is Patsy Cline. Hey, I flipped her heads or tails.